So back in October, I got a house finally, and I've been working on my game room ever since. And today I think I'd finally call it complete. So let's take a look at it. We'll just take a little tour through things. Door we just came in. Some of my Castlevania posters. Some more of them. And these are some of my spare consoles. Alternate models or colors and such. That's the Top Loader NES, the AV Famicom, Turbo Duo, Turbo Express, XI, and CDX. The Genesis Model 1 with Sega CD Model 1, and Nomad, and the Turbo Graphics with the Turbo CD add-on. And that's my game setup, but I'm going to come back to that later because that might be a little lengthy of a description. My World of Nintendo sign. And this is a dresser that we picked up just to be able to display things on top and put controllers and accessories in the drawer so they weren't just in these little cheap plastic tubs. Some more posters. Complete in Box Earthbound. Some World of Nintendo figures. Wind Waker HD Collector's Edition. And some of the Club Nintendo statues. Some more World of Nintendo figurines. Some various statues from Collector's Editions. Here's some of my Neo Geo stuff. On the left I've got the AES games, except for the MVS cart sitting on top. And then on the right I've got some of the MVS games and shock boxes, along with an adapter that'll let them be played on an AES console. And down here there's a little bit of Japanese PC stuff, some of the East games. The Oath and Felghana purple looking box there comes with like 7 or 8 music CDs, along with a little cheap Castlevania and Contra collection that I just got for my Castlevania collection. These are some of my complete MSX games. We got here Proteus. It's actually kind of a cheat device for Konami games, give you infinite lives and such. There's Castlevania. There's usually here that's called Mystical Ninja. And then Nemesis 3, which is in the Gradius series. Sorry if there's not enough light down here. And then that's my X68000 games. There's Dragon Spirit on the left, Castlevania next, Gradius 2, Nemesis 90 Kai, which is a remake of Nemesis 2 on MSX, which is also in the Gradius series, and Soul Feast. Moving on, some more posters, big box, Lethal Enforcer Sega CD. Now these little slender posters like this are ones that I got out of Nintendo Power magazines and had them laminated. Here's my Sega CD collection. With a few more little things there. And there's part of my Saturn collection. little bit more. And the imports. And a little bit of 3DO. Which I don't really care about, but I got the console for free, so got a few games for it. Here is probably the biggest display in here. Kind of hard to capture it all on one screen. On top, got some various collector's editions. Donkey Kong Country displayed. I assume it's used in stores. I can't find much information on it. Some various Nintendo handhelds. Mostly 3DS special editions. I'll go through and get the PS1 games. The Japanese one there is Gradius Gaiden. And that Japanese one is Tales of Fantasia. Got a few little figurines here. The bottom ones are all Suikoden. It's Dragon Quest VIII, Dragon Quest Slime. And I forget his name. He's in Final Fantasy XII, but that's Final Fantasy Tactics PSP model of him, since he was a bonus character in that. PS2 games, I don't have just a ton of them. I'm not as attached to it. Some Kingdom Hearts figures. And PS3 games. Massive PS4 collection. These are some TurboGrafx games. Moves on to mostly Turbo CD, PC Engine CD, depending. Cosmic Fantasy 2 is still sealed. Exile just has part of the original packaging on it, but it's open. And there's a 360 collection with just an Xbox Castlevania Curse of Darkness, since I have that for my Castlevania collection. And these down here are my loose NES games. You can't really see much from them, so I'm not going to go greatly into depth. A few random things down here. There's a card of Crisis Force. It's a very good shoot 'em up on Famicom. Moving on, things get more impressive. Got complete in box Game Boy games. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with this one. It was a very big pain for me to find. And this shifts over to Game Boy Color. Virtual Boy. So there are a few more games that I have loose, but they're not sitting out, but most of them complete. Other 3 complete. And this is Game Boy Advance. And more Game Boy Advance. I don't know why, but this is on a focus the best sometimes. And then got DS games. Japanese one there is the Fire Emblem that we did not get here. And more DS games. That last one is a special edition of that, I forget what it's called, Ace Prosecutor 2, whatever, the Phoenix Wright spinoff. It's my wife's, I'm not quite as familiar with it. Club Nintendo Game & Watch Ball reprint, along with the original Game & Watch Oil Panic. And Dreamcast games. And Master System games. Alex Kidd there is just in a universal game case. But most of the rest of these are complete. There might be a couple that are missing the manual. And those Sonic games are actually European imports. They play fine on a US Master System. And got Genesis games. Most are complete in the box, but some of them are also missing a manual. And there's maybe 3 or 4 that are in a universal game case. They stand out a bit like that guy Rez there. It's a little darker down here, hard to see some of these. 32X games. A little bit of Game Gear. That's Shining Force Final Conflict there on the end, which we did not get in the US. And these are some of my duplicate Master System games, except these are sealed. And down here, though you probably can't see them very well, so it's just some odds and ends, mostly repros right here, like Secret of Mana 2. Shin Megami Tensei 2, not showing up very well on the camera. And moving on, got some mostly complete in box NES games. A few random ones that don't have the manual, probably. So the original black box ones that we have. And then moving on, now moving on to the complete in box Super Nintendo games. Again, probably a couple that don't have a manual. The Mega Man X3 and Mega Man 7 do not have the manual, unfortunately. That's all of the complete in box Super Nintendo games, but I've got some more below. They're in Universal game cases. It's Final Fight 2 there that doesn't have a label. Or a label on the case. What's that one? That's Pocky and Rocky 2. That one is a Star Fox 2 repro. Super Bomberman. And these are 3DS games. There's a few more that I'll show later that are special editions that are sitting off. And these are Famicom Disk System games. Their version of Castlevania, which lets you save. Castlevania 2. I'm going to go through everything here. There's also the real Super Mario Brothers 2 there. Oh wait, and there was some more Super Nintendo games on Universal game cases. It's Top Gear 1 and 2 there. And these are complete in box N64 games. Well, actually, some of these are in Universal game cases. Diddy Kong Racing, Dr. Mario, these two, Ogre Battle, and Star Fox and Super Smash Brothers. Now this goes on to GameCube. Then on to Wii. Actually, that black Pandora's Tower is the European version. We bought that before we got the US version here and didn't look like we were going to get it. It's the Wii U games. These are the complete in box Famicom games. There's the Splatterhouse. I'm not even going to try to say the name and embarrass myself. That's Megami Tensei 2. Along with Megami Tensei 1 there on the end. It's Ninja Ryukenden 3, which is just Ninja Gaiden 3, except the difficulty isn't cranked up like they did for the US version, so it's actually playable. Fire Emblem game. This one is actually hard to find. Originally in Japan, Castlevania was only on the Famicom Disk System, but then, I don't know if it was 1990 or 91, somewhere around then, they re-released it on cart there. And it has selectable difficulties, a few other minor things, but it's really hard to find. And these are a complete Super Famicom games. This video is already dragging on a bit, so I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Some of them you might recognize. Oh, a couple of more complete Famicom games. Moving on, some more posters. Another display here. Got a few complete in box things. Genesis 3. The second player Justifier light gun, which is it's the pink one that's actually hard to find. Complete in box N64 and black controller. Complete in box Virtual Boy. Some special edition games. These are actually hard to find. They were Walmart exclusives. Little odds and ends there. More special editions. More special editions. And 3DS, or DS stuff, I mean. Some DSi thrown in. A little bit of regular 3DS stuff. I'm sure down at the bottom there'll be some new 3DS stuff to go there. And let's see, actually, it's just the box right now, but I just need to get the Game Boy sometime soon. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Same with that Game Boy. Club Nintendo pin set. Complete in box Model 2 Super Nintendo. Complete in box 3DO. Only have it because it was free years ago. Neo Geo Pocket Color. Special editions. Complete box 32X. Go to the center of the room here to give an overview over everything. it's actually one more display. Oh wait, no, I did talk about that earlier. Okay, now back to my actual setup here for playing the consoles. Everything here, the newer stuff is HDMI. Slightly not newer stuff is component. And then everything else is RGB or VGA depending. Because all the retro consoles, either they support RGB natively or they've been modded to include it, such as the N64, NES. Model 2 Super Nintendo doesn't have it, but the Model 1 does, but it looks better on the Model 2 once it's modded back in. PC Engine Duo R, which is modded to play US TurboGrafx Hue cards also. And what I've done is, most people who go through the trouble of using RGB end up using the SCART cables and SCART switch boxes. And I hate those because they always seem to have some kind of issue. Whether it be a cheap cable or the switch introduces interference. So what I did for every console that uses RGB, I made a little RCA style breakout box. You know, like how normally you'd have yellow for composite, such and such. So I've got one, you know, for RGB, sync, and then 2 audios. So then I can use regular cables and use these Pelican Pro component switch boxes, which I've labeled everything here. I'll just have one on at a time, select what I need. But additionally, since I don't have anything fancy like a PVM CRT that supports RGB natively, I've got a converter that converts RGB to component. So then, basically how this works is I've got another switch box on top here. Can't see too well, but that selects where you send the video signal. So if I want it to go to my XRGB3 to upscale on my HDTV, just have that selected, and then it'll send it to there. I've got another one that just sends it to the component input on the HDTV, which is mostly just used for the GameCube and PS2 up there. And the other one will send it to the CRT, which then that goes to the RGB to component converter, converts it to component, goes to component input on the TV. Looks very nice. It would take video, but it doesn't really display the quality like it does in person. There's the Dreamcast, which is hooked up through VGA, but I've also modded the VGA box that you probably can't see back there to have a switch, so it can also do RGB. Some games will not work with VGA, and if I want them to display on the CRT, I need it to be RGB since it's not anything fancy that supports VGA. There is my X68000. It's very hard to come by, especially now. Also got that on a XPC4 upscaler, along with 2 Roland MIDI devices. Because quite a few games support alternate soundtracks through MIDI. And that is my MSX2 Plus. Neo Geo AES. And just a PC for some PC games, usually through Steam Big Picture mode. And that's pretty much my game room. I consider it pretty complete now. I've been working on it for a few months. It took forever to get the video setup done with all my customization. Get rid of my SCART woes. So thank you for watching.